Hey guys, so Ramona will be joining us in a couple of days. So in this video, I want to go through her kit and if you should pull for her. Ramona is a poison unit and she deals damage through poison, and in her kit there is two types of poison. The first is the typical poison that everyone inflicts, but her poison is slightly stronger because it's 40% of your attack as Genesis damage. Other character is like 20, 30, so hers is a little bit higher. And as a poison unit, the first thing you want to know is how she inflicts this poison. So from inside when entering battle or when an enemy enter battle. What does it mean by when an enemy enter battle is that when you are fighting a certain stage, some enemy will die and they will come in. So if those enemy dies and then come back in, that is considered a new enemy entering the battle. So she will inflict 2 instances of poison to all enemies, okay, for 2 rounds. So if there is minions, like if you're fighting a boss with minions that keep respawning, then she will be inflicting more poison. And other than that, her skill 1, skill 2, and follow-up action all deals 1 stack of poison per attack. So if you put it all together, and especially if you're fighting against an enemy that doesn't really have a minion that keep respawning, it seems quite little the number of poison that she can inflict. But if you do a rotation right, you should be able to inflict at least 6 stacks of poison, because what you want to do here is to use her ultimate and convert these 6 stacks of poison into a different kind of poison known as expellent. And since expellent is like a combination of poison, so it deals more damage, equals to 50% of attack times 6 if it's 6 stacks of poison, right? So that is equals to 300% Genesis damage. And for each round that expellent lasted, by default it lasts for 2 rounds, and every time it lasted another round, the resolve damage will increase by 25%. And at the end of the duration, deal an additional number of round lasted. Okay, so let's say there's 2 rounds. So first round, second round, the user's attack times 350% Genesis damage, and this is counted as poison damage. So overall, just in terms of attack percent Genesis damage, the first time it lasted, at the end of the round, it will deal 300% because it's 6 stacks of poison, right? Then the next round will be 600%, another 300%, then additional 350%. So overall, this ultimate deals about 1000 Genesis damage, whereby during the second turn, it will increase by 25% of its damage. And what we want is that we want to prolong this. So a way to prolong this is using Tuesday, because Tuesday array will keep the poison from depleting, and if Tuesday array lasts for 3 rounds, then you will get higher multiplier at the end when Tuesday's array ended. Alright, which is why Tuesday is still the core unit for poison teams. Apart from inflicting poison and let it naturally trigger, Ramona's kit has a lot of ways to keep re-triggering these poisons so that you do even more damage, as every time you trigger all the poison, and yeah, that's where a lot of her damage is from. So how to trigger poison? First, like I say, naturally at the end of the round. Second is something called Spirit Repellent. That is from a follow-up attack. If you do a follow-up attack each time, she will inflict Spirit Repellent on the enemy, and Spirit Repellent, it will then trigger the poison stacks 1 additional time at the end of the round. Another way to inflict Spirit Repellent is that when an enemy dies, then at the start of the next round, she will inflict 1 stack of Spirit Repellent on all enemies. Spirit Repellent can stack up to 6 times. So if you are playing like Tide of Thoughts, you use the boss part that creates, after you defeat the hand and the core, there's the little paper plane that will appear. So if each round you are defeating 3 of that, in the next round she will instantly inflict 3 stacks of Spirit Repellent. So if you have a lot of enemy and you keep killing them, you will end up stacking a lot of stacks of Spirit Repellent, which is a little bit broken, which is why I guess the developer limit the stack up to 6 stacks. So if I'm not relying on killing enemies to inflict stacks of spirit repellent, then I have to rely on her follow-up attack, which is Marigold method. So this follow-up attack deal mass damage, 250% mental damage, but we don't really care about that one because what we want is poison. And she will inflict 1 stack of poison and also 1 stack of spirit repellent on the target for 2 rounds. So this is count as 1 follow-up attack. And the third way to trigger poison, other than using spirit repellent, is from her skill 2. So a skill 2 deal 200, 300, and 500 mental damage depending on the rank. But again, we don't really care about that one. And again, she inflict 1 stack of poison on the enemy, and she will immediately resolve 1 round of poison effect on the target. So if you have the expellent, the one from the ultimate, and all the poison, then she will trigger it all. And not only that is based on her rank, she will trigger it with additional damage. So if it's rank 1, it's just like 100%. If it's rank 2, it's 125%, so you get 25% more. If rank 3, it's 160%, so you get 60% more. And when you trigger it this way, you do not decrease the duration of the poison, right? So if you can't use her as 2 as much as you can, then you will deal a lot of poison damage. Alright, so what we know here is that in order to do damage, we need to be using her follow-up attack to inflict spirit repellent, and then you use S2 to resolve the poison even more. So, how to trigger her follow-up attack so you can get even more spirit repellent? To do that, you have to understand these 3 things, which forms her entire gameplay mechanics, which is Exorcist for Hire, Possess, and Marigold method. So first, Exorcist for Hire, remove at the start of the round to trigger special effect. And what is this special effect? It basically rewrite, and rewrite is a new mechanic in patch 3.5, as Lawrence has rewrite as well. So she will add an additional effect on top of the incantation that is possessed, right? So here, if you have like a lot of stacks of Exorcist for Hire, let's say 2 stacks, then 2 cards will have possessed. And if you use the card with possess, then you will trigger Ramona's Marigold method 1 time. And if you use 2 cards that both has possess, then you will trigger Marigold method 2 times. So the more you trigger, the more damage she will do. So now the next question is, how do I get Exorcist for Hire? First is from her insight. At the start of the round, Ramona gained 1 stack of Exorcist for Hire, and then she will remove all of it in order to rewrite an ally incantation with Possess. So we know now she will get 1 by default due to her insight. After that, from her skill 1, Purifying Incense, it deals 180, 270, 450 mental damage to 2 enemies, and it will inflict 1 instant of poison on the target, and after attacking, gain 1 stack of Exorcist for Hire. So this is a second way for you to get Exorcist for Hire. However, Exorcist for Hire, it will go to the debuff, which is on the most right of your incantation list. So when you play Ramona, which in my previous gameplay I didn't really try to optimize this, what you want is that in order to keep a certain rotation for your other poison unit, you want to use their incantation. So if you can, you try to arrange the incantation that you want to use in the next round to the most right, to the rightmost in your spell dock, so that those incantation, it has to be a debuff. If it's an attack card, it's a buff card, doesn't matter. So the debuff, it will then be inflicted, right, with Possess when you consume Exorcist for Hire, or else those Possess will be wasted if you don't use those incantations. So having that said, it is more reliable that if we have a guaranteed incantation that always have possess, and if we use that, we bypasses the needs of Exorcist for Hire, and all we need to use is the card with possess, and that will directly trigger Marigold method and then it will inflict spirit repellent on the enemy. Fortunately, that comes from her ultimate for the Peace of Both Worlds. Mass attack, deal 500% mental damage to all enemies and transform up to 6 stacks of poison into expellent, as I have already explained. But in addition to that, you also gain efficient exorcism for 2 rounds. So efficient exorcism at the start of the round, you will generate 1 rank 3 precast incantation, Ghost Be Gone, which is her S2, the one that resolves poison when you use it, and it will be rewritten. And since it lasts for 2 rounds, if you can cycle through her rotation every 2 rounds, you will always have efficient exorcism and it cannot be dispelled. So which means you are guaranteed to get a rank 3 S2 with Possess every round. So that is already 1 spirit repellent guaranteed. So again, if you use your ultimate frequently, then you can keep getting the rank 3 precast, then you keep inflicting spirit repellent, and then and it's also S2, so now you keep triggering expellent, and that's where all her damage is from. So overall her rotation, so thank God she has Moxie, passive Moxie gain. Okay, so how does she do that? Okay, first of all, when entering battle, Ramona gained 2 Moxies. So after Ramona casts Marigold method for the first time each round, which she definitely can if you use her S2, the rank 3 S2, because it comes with Possess, so if you use that, she will definitely do a full attack. And she will definitely gain +1 Moxie that way. So you can assume that every single round, passively, she will be able to get 1 Moxie. Okay, so here assuming that you have already used her ultimate the previous time and now you regain her ultimate, her rotation is basically a 2-round rotation. Okay, so ultimate, you use S1, you use S2. In round 2, you use S2 again. This S2 is the rank 3 S2. Okay, so 1 Moxie when you use S1, another Moxie when you use S2, and then in round 2, another S2, that's 3 Moxie, and since passively she get 1 Moxie each round, that is 5. So you will regain her ultimate. The S1 that I write here, you can also use it in round 2. Or you don't want to use S1, so happen that a lot of possess fall onto her own S2, and then you want to trigger more poison, you can also do that, so it becomes like ultimate S2, S2, in the next round, S2. Or ultimate S2, in round 2, S2, S2. Okay, you can do that as well. So since she uses 2 AP, you have 2 more AP left, and that should be for your other poison unit like Willow or Tuesday, or for your sustain to do their ultimate, because if you put like Marsha in here, you want to use the ultimate for Discipline Forge. It will work on them, so you do use it, okay? And which one to use? Preferably the one that has Possess, so you can inflict even more spirit repellent on the enemy to do more damage. So her teammate, Ramona, Tuesday, as already mentioned, will be her core, because Tuesday can prevent the poison from depleting. Her array lasts for 3 rounds, so yeah. So expellent from her ultimate can now last longer than 2 rounds, and each time the compounding 25% more damage that it will deal. So if you can last it for 3 or even 4 rounds, you can do 4 rounds, because like before Tuesday uses an array, you use Ramona's ultimate first, you already inflict expellent on the enemy, it lasts for 2 rounds. So now in the second round, you use Tuesday's array and it will hold the expellent in place. Okay, and then now in the third round, you can inflict another expellent. So you have 2 expellent on the enemy, and by the time the round that Tuesday array ends, you will have 2 you will have 2 expellent, one that has already been 4 rounds, and another that has lasted for 2 rounds. Okay, and now all of it will be triggered together, and then you will deal a lot of Genesis damage. Now, for Willow in the glass, you will feel like, hey, Willow is also consuming poison to turn into Hexbane, so it's like competing with Ramona. But first of all, if you have like Tuesday, Willow, and Ramona, you should have enough poison going around, so you don't have to worry about that. But one main thing why Willow is important for this team is because Ramona herself inflicts triggers, not inflict, triggers a lot or resolve a lot of poison effects. So if you have Hexbane at max stack at 10, and then Ramona is like triggering again and again and again, you will be doing a lot of damage. So you don't even have to rely on Willow's own attack to trigger Hexbane because Ramona can do it for her. But of course, if it's a single round, you want to do as much poison damage as possible, then you just keep spamming Willow's skill that triggers her own Hexbane, and then Ramona is also triggering all the poison. You will be able to do a lot of damage and get, even in raid, they can do enough to easily get 10 million. As for sustain, I would suggest you to use Marsha. Marsha is not a poison unit, but Discipline Forge, the crit and crit damage and conversion is useful for the poison team because the poison in these teams, they can crit. Okay, they can crit, so Marsha is a good choice. Soda Bee is a poison sustain, but Soda Bee also need to consume AP, so it becomes a little bit AP hungry, and you won't have enough AP if you want to like sustain Willow's rotation, you want to sustain Ramona's rotation, then you also need to have 1 AP once in a while for Tuesday's rotation. So I would suggest you not to put Soda Bee in and use Marsha instead. Or a sustain that can inflict a lot of negative status, because with Tuesday around, each time you inflict negative status, you have a chance to inflict one poison stack as well. So if you have a sustain that can keep inflicting negative status, then you may end up getting even more poison. So I'm not going to mention which sustain that is in this video, but you know, then you know. For her Psychube, I would suggest using 37 Psychube. The 5-star Psychube is also easier to get it to P5. Sorry, not P5, A5. So what does it do at A5 is ignore the crit damage part, you can't utilize it. Ramona is a plant, not star character. But here, after taking an extra action, Genesis damage deal plus 12%, stack up to 5 times. And Ramona can do full-up attack. So in just a couple of rounds, you will be able to get up to 60% Genesis damage down, which is huge, okay? And this Psychube, the stats is not low, 360 attack with 8% attack boost, and that helps making poison dealing more damage. As for her own Psychube, it is okay, but the 5-star 37 Psychube is better. But anyway, for her own Psychube, attack is 380, and attack percentage is 10%. Okay, this is at level 60. And the effect is that if the carrier of latest is plant, after a follow-up attack, they gain Genesis damage 2%. If it's A5, it's 4%, stack up to 3 times. So 12% Genesis damage. Whenever an ally takes an action, if the incantation is changed in any way, actually referring to possessed. So all enemy will gain poison damage plus 1%, stack up to 3 times for 3 rounds. So at A5, it is 3% for 3 rounds, so that's 9%. So here you are getting like 12% Genesis damage and 9% poison damage taken. But the 37 one is 60%, so yeah, use 37 5-star Psychube. For her portrait, level 1, Clear Shadow, Ramona now gain Moxie plus 3 when entering battle. Marigold method now deals 400% mental damage and inflicts 2 instances of poison and 2 stack of spirit repellent. So with more spirit repellent, you will be doing even more damage. Okay, so in terms of rotation, it doesn't change the rotation, which means if you have P0, you are fine. It's not going to make her gameplay easier or anything like that. So I would suggest you can stay with P0. But you want more damage, then you can go for P1. or even P2, because P2, the ultimate expellent, now deal the number of poison, higher attack percentage, 75% instead of 50, and expellent now gain resolve damage 35%, and for each round it lasted, and it now deals 550 Genesis damage at the end of the duration. So with the boost of expellent, and now you are triggering more poison, so end up you were doing even more damage. So if you really want to push the damage more, you can go for P2. Okay, the last effect, efficient exorcist, now lasts for 3 rounds. Doesn't really matter, because if you keep a rotation 2 rounds, you will have that. Okay, so you don't need it to be 3 rounds. For portrait 3, purifying incense and ghost be gone now inflict 2 stacks of poison. Doesn't really matter, because with the poison team you should be able, unless you just want to run Ramona by herself, which is not recommended. So yeah, I think you don't need. And all poison inflicted by Ramona deals 50% Genesis damage, but again, you are consuming your poisons, right, to convert it to expellent. So you don't really need P3. And P4, if you're going for P4, might as well P5, which is why I skip the bolt for P4 and directly recommended P5 here. But anyway, P4, Ghost Be Gone, Resolve Poison, now deals even more damage, 140, 165, and 200% of its original damage. And the ultimate will do even more damage as well, but only at the end of the duration. So it's not like you really need P4. So P5, for Peace of Both Worlds, the ultimate, now the expellent deals number of transform poison, 100% of attack Genesis damage. Expellent now resolve 45%, so it's just like P2, but everything is boosted. Okay, at the start of the round, Ramona now gain 2 stacks of Exorcist for higher, so which means you will be able to have even more spirit repellent on the enemy, which then will trigger even more poison, right? So if you want to go for P5, you will be doing a lot of damage. But here I recommend is, if you are on a budget, just stay P0, her rotation is fine. If you want to push for damage, P1, and then next is P2, and then P5. Alright? So this is my recommendation for her portrait. So lastly, should you pull or not? So yes, if you have Tuesday and Willow, might as well just complete the team. If you want a generalist team that doesn't care about afflators, so they are a good feeler. Like let's say if you play Reverie, you have 4 rounds, you need 4 different types of afflators, but you are missing one, then they can just slot it in. You can slot them there. Okay? And if your roster missing, let's say you need Beast, you need Star, you need Plant, you need Mineral. You don't have a team for Plant. You put the Poison team there. Or you have those, but you don't have a team for Mineral. You put the Poison team to replace the Mineral team. If you don't have for Star, then you replace Star. So they can replace any team there. Okay? And Reveries, you need up to 4 teams. So if you haven't done your Reveries, then yeah, you should try to build up another team. Okay? If you're a new player, I hope you have been taking the recommendation that I have provided to you, and you should be building up this poison team, because it will be very helpful for you to tackle a lot of content without having a deep or a vast roster. Okay, they can get 10 million in rate, and that is what you should target for. Don't target for 30 million, because later on the developer will adjust the difficulty down. So 10 million is enough. Okay, and here, no, if you got no Tuesday, you got not enough pools to get Tuesday and Ramona at the same time. So in that case, I would suggest you to skip Ramona. Focus on whatever team that you are building right now. And if you already have a very balanced roster, like you have all the afflators properly built up, you have cleared all the Reveries. So in that case, it's not necessary for you to get this team. So in that case, skip Ramona. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good day.